family vloggings, family vlogs with children is the topic for today. I've been thinking about this for a while, and I started to do a Google search, and apparently there are a lot of videos speaking about it too. And I guess it's obvious for most people that it would be harmful or could be harmful towards children. I've been thinking, can there be a case or a scenario in which it isn't? And I imagine there could be situations where it, it isn't too hurtful or harmful. But I think, to my mind at least, I can't see why you would risk it, because there are definite risks with it. I found this video called "Family Vloggers Are More Toxic Than Ever," than ever by Ashley Viola, sorry. And this is a woman who she was a child, and she were put in vlogs with her parents, and this is what she has to say about it.
I am a child of a family vlogger, a former family vlogger that had people on YouTube thinking that I was pregnant at 13. That is why I'm so passionate about this stuff, y'all. All types of stuff were broadcasted on my mom's YouTube. Now, this was the early 2000s, early 2010s, when family vlogging was becoming popular and the ramifications were not yet studied. She was a young mom. She did not know. When she found out, she stopped. Y'all know the ramifications because we have told y'all the ramifications, but y'all still continue to post your children's intimate moments. There are people on the internet that
Yeah. So, and this is the last thing that she says also, that there are people on the internet meaning to harm children. Actually asked ChatGPT about the negative effects of where did I put it? There. Negative effects of no, it isn't there. Sorry. About it, and as you could imagine, there are a few problems with it, or there can be a few problems with it at least. I don't know why I lost it. Yeah. Anyway, let's see there. So there's big problems, of course, putting your children in harm's way. That's that's for sure a big problem. But I think there are, even if you think about a best case scenario, like you would protect your children somehow. You could, live in a country where you're not very known to the people around you, and you could have like really try to listen to your children, listen to what your children has to say, listen to their needs, and not put them in a video if they don't feel like it. That is, I guess, what would be the most the thing that you could do to try to ameliorate the effects of vlogging with your children. I think, though, as I was alluding to, that it is impossible to really not risk many of the things that are associated with having children continuously on camera, and thereby more or less making them having to act in a certain way. I mean, I guess a counter argument would be that they always have what do you call it, expectations, and there are a lot of families where children are not handled with care. Basically, they have to live up to different types of expectations. If it's school, or how to be, or how to act, or even in a religious or fundamentalist environment. That is also probably for many children even worse than being in a family vlog. Or I wouldn't say probably, but there are instances for sure where there are fundamentalist religious families, and of course non-fundamentalist families that are also just bad parents. Those are there too. I'm just thinking, again, what is the best case scenario, even best case scenario for a fundamentalist religious family? To me, even that borders on, I mean, it's different in different countries, and many countries have laws that regulate the degree to which the state can infringe on the family's business, so to speak, and it's the family is heavily guarded in many ways, which is good, of course, but it's not good if the children are hurt. So that's it's a tension between letting parents parent and keeping children out of harm in a society. So we don't regulate religious freedom, but I think in Sweden we do have there are at least things written about children being granted religious freedom, or that they should be. I think that's a sound approach to have. I would have that too, or have that as a parent, to not impose my own religious beliefs on my children. It's one thing to express them and say that this is how I think, of course. And of course, it's also almost impossible to not affect your children. And I mean, many parents would say that they would want to affect their children. I guess that's up to a parent in many ways too. Of course, you can't force people to parent in a certain way, even though it statistically may hurt children more than it helps them. That's again the tension between what is the role of society regarding children, and what is the role of to what degree can you micromanage families. In this case, surrounding vlogging, it seems to be definitely legal to do these vlogs. Yet I don't think that it is a good thing. Like many things, it's not good to push your children to be anxious around their homeworks every day either, or use physical violence, which is still legal in some countries. I don't think that's a good thing either. And I think that's solid data and definitely ethical considerations that would also support that. When it comes to blogging, though, it's an interesting thing because it's unlike religious or fundamentalist religion. It's really not necessary. I mean, if you are a fundamentalist Christian or whatever, then it's like a really strong belief that is ingrained within you, and you believe that this is the road to salvation, basically. Most of the world wouldn't agree with you because most don't have that belief, but you believe that. And of course, there are many things that are true, or maybe good things that I believe in that most of the world doesn't. But it's easier to understand someone having a religious belief and coming from that sort of culture and imposing those on the children, even though I don't think it's a good thing. It's harder to understand why someone would put their children through being the subject of vlogs or continuous vlogs every week, year in, year out, and posting everything about their life on the internet without their consent. And what I mean consent is that the same, basically the same same argument that children can't consent to a lot of things, which they are when they aren't, unless they are of a certain age. I would say that children cannot consent to being in. I mean, it's not illegal, but grown-up children like this woman here, regrets it and speaks about the dangers of being in that kind of environment. We also have, of course, all these young people who have grown up in Hollywood. It's, of course, a different environment, but that's also just being famous in that way. Your whole childhood is just, yeah. Even adults speak about how they don't enjoy becoming famous or regretting going that path or road. Not necessarily everyone, of course. A lot of people are really seeking it out. And I remember reading about Kevin Bacon the other day, trying to live as a non-famous guy, dressed up as like a normal fellow, and he didn't enjoy it at all. he wanted to get back to his famous life pretty quickly because all the perks were gone. Kind of reminds me of a woman who dressed up as a guy, and she wrote a book about it. She thought that it would be much better to live as a guy and have all the perks that she thought men have. And yeah, this is a hot topic, I guess. But she went through with it with a few months. I think she lived as a guy, and one of the things she noticed was that no one cared about her. No one looked at her. No one said hi to her. No one was nice to her. And she just got really depressed really quickly. So she ended the experiment much earlier than she had planned. Anyway, living as a famous child is a very different upbringing than most children have. Just like being in a fundamentalist religious family. Again, fundamentalist religious families, if you're born into that for good or bad, I mean, it's hard to do anything about it. I don't think it's a good thing in general because, yeah, you impose so much on that child basically, and you don't give them the freedom that I think another upbringing would give. There are other, I mean, a fundamentalist religious family can be much better than a non-fundamentalist family for sure. It's just all things being equal, that would be worse. And the same thing goes for the blogging, vlogging, not blogging. Blogging would perhaps be a bit smoother ride, but vlogging isn't. Having a camera put in your face, just as I have now, is such a weird thing to have. I mean, of course, many things are weird, but it goes to the core of who you are because you're, in a way, and to make this into something spiritual, everything is, of course, not everything is, of course, but many things are acting. You're acting, basically. This is what the traditions tells us, that we have an ego that has developed through interactions with the environment and the language system coming online inside the brain, or however you think about it. And there's it pops up a person there who believes he or she, or whatever name it goes by, is something, is someone, and is acting, basically believing in the dream, so to speak, or quite literally according to some traditions. So you're acting, but when you put for instance, if you have other people there, you act in different ways, and depending on situation, you act in certain ways. But when you put a camera there, people act really differently than what they usually act like. In a way that, is psychologically taxing, I would say. It's like being in a movie. It's like having to act in a movie. Even if it's your own life, you're not as you usually are. I mean, there are some people who get they get sort of used to it. But I've looked at many people doing these family vlogs, and you can see the relationship that they have to the camera. It is not like anyone. It's almost like there's a third person there, or a non-human person there that is the most important in the house, so to speak. You can see how they look into the camera, how they want to capture things in the camera, how the camera becomes more important than the children. That's just one of the possible problems, I think. It's a matter of degrees, of course. There are some families where I haven't looked at all of them for sure. My own children watches this sometimes, and so and I notice just scenes coming up when something happens, especially something unexpected. They really want to capture it, even if they like putting them together in a group, but again, it's on a scale. But if you are out there, I'm thinking of with Trump assassination. You saw that there were a guy with a camera there who just leaped up there to the scene, starting taking pictures, which is extremely dangerous and not a good thing. But it was worth it for him. He got one of the most iconic pictures or photos ever taken, and that you wouldn't. My point is just that people do things when they have a camera and want to capture things for the views. I mean, that is of course why you do it. If you're uploading every week, year in, year out, it is a job. That is also the thing. So the children learns, even if it isn't explicitly told to them, just as a child will know that the parents really wants you to do the homework and be really good at it, even if they're not screaming that to you. Or many children know by just they pick those things up. They are smart, even though they aren't cognitively aware of everything, because they see in their parents' behavior and what they say, and in all these subtle subtle ways, and perhaps not so subtle. We have in this very video, I saw some comments. I haven't looked at the whole video, but someone mentioned here that the video of the woman telling her son to cry after his dog dies is truly one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen. Yeah. Discussing a teenage daughter's sexual orientation, and there's a lot of this. This is happening, a lot. It would have to be quantified, I guess, but it is a problem, and it happens for sure. I've seen it myself. Even these subtle moves, when something happens as an accidental thing or something unexpected, or even if the child is hurt, you can see in many of the videos, even from quote-unquote good parents that seem to be, have the children's best interests in mind, you can see how they look at the child and how aware they are of the camera and the parents, that is, and they want to capture it, which make them not being as attentive to their children as they would have been otherwise. And again, there are many many parents that probably would have been even more unattentive even without the camera, for sure. There are parents they just don't care about their children, basically. That is a sad truth, but that's just the world. But to see that, all things being equal, adding the camera, that is my point. Adding the camera, adding the vlogging, adding those things, it isn't needed. It's just not needed to have the camera there. It's not needed to put on this, put on an act every week in front of a camera to do a movie, playing yourself in a way, but you're really not. You're playing yourself, which is also a really weird thing psychologically to do, I think. Most people, again, when you put a camera in front of them, they start to act strange because it's psychologically taxing to be in front of a camera. And when you're a child, that should be something that you, even an adult too, you should ask someone who is an adult if they want to be on camera, and which you do. Many people say no. But when you start doing this with children and they realize that it's not even, it isn't explicit from, it's just an implicit understanding. Some may even say that they don't want to be there, or I don't know what happens behind the camera. I imagine that those problems sometimes arise. But it's also just the fact that they understand this very sad thing, that this is how it is. This won't change. I guess some people even say that, yeah, but we ask their children that, and they say that it's fine. They say they find it enjoyable. And yeah, sure. I mean, that's what all the religious children say too. Religious fundamentalist children also say. And then when they grow up, they say it was a hellhole that they had to live through, and they were indoctrinated. And just as people are in different kinds of sects, I'm not saying that these vloggers are in the same category. They definitely are not. And again, many of these vlogging families, like ChatGPT said too, many of it's not just bad things, of course. It creates a lot of opportunities for the children. And these famous families, they make a ton of money. So they have opportunities monetarily wise. They also get opportunities to, they become influencers. They become influential, and they get people want to hang out with them and all those kinds of things. So there are perks to it for sure, and they may become popular because of it, which maybe is also a good thing. But in general, being famous as a child, again, it's just a risk I would never want to take with my children. I would never, I just wouldn't want to put that on them. I'm not saying that I'm a perfect parent by any means, but it's just so, it's a risk that is, I would say it's pretty substantial. I don't know exactly how to quantify it, except, looking at people who have grown up in these families. That is one thing. We can look at it theoretically, the psychological implications from growing up like that, growing up being, famous as a child. All the hate you get too as an influencer. I mean, you can shield your children to some extent from that, but not fully. There will be a lot of weird comments in the comment section, and the children will be online. They will do, sooner or later, they will do searches for themselves, for their family, and see all the negative comments about them, which is true for everyone that is famous. And that's why you shouldn't make children famous, I think. Yeah, that's, it's just, I mean, if you're born into a famous family, there's, some of it is going to rub off on you either way. There's no way around it. But if you're not in a famous family, and especially not I mean, even if you're in, again, Trump's family or something, I don't know who his children are. I don't. They are not posting everything about them. I don't know how it is with his family, but it's very different to post to post your children on online every week in, week out, forever, documenting their whole life. Again, that could be a perk for sure. Maybe it would be fun to look back at, but that's the thing. You just don't know. That's the same thing with fundamentalist religion. I would think that, there are of course many people, or maybe most even, that grow up and just stay a religious fundamentalist. Sometimes because they are so indoctrinated. It's really hard to leave that. It's it's a difficult position to be in, because you have to disconnect, as it were, from everyone. If it's, for example, Jehovah's Witnesses or Scientology or something like that, it's not just, I want to leave. It's, okay, you're going to lose your family, everyone you know, and you're going to be broke, and you won't have anything. And we will tell you that you're worth nothing and you're going to go to hell if you do it. So it's not, and it's not the same thing with the vlogging family, but it's not a choice for the children. I guess that's one of the points here. It's not a choice. They cannot give an informed consent to that when they are, 2 years old or 4 years old or whatever. And you have indoctrinated them through all those years, even if you've been very nice to them, even if you're really, 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 really good parents. I still think that, to my mind at least, it's just not worth the risks. The risks are so substantial that you may hurt. I mean, to me, what I think as a parent is, I want to be able to look at my children when they are grown up, and if they ask them, why did you do this? I would want to be certain that, that I can vouch for it, or how do you say it? That I still believe that it's the right thing to do, and have a good argument for it, shall we say? Why did you do that? I mean, and why would you, uh, vlogging with my children on YouTube, every week, their whole upbringing? I just couldn't. That there would be the money for sure. Maybe if we didn't have the money and that was the only way to make money, doesn't sound like a good argument though. Uh, I don't know what else it would be, because if it was just, we enjoyed it and you seem to like it, when you know that there are these risks. And again, I guess, not again, but I guess it would be interesting to hear what the people, who are doing this, their reasons for it, and how they view the psychological harm this, may hurt, may harm, may cause. I think, I don't know. I don't know if there are studies on it. I don't know how to really. It would be interesting to have some psychologists' viewpoint on it, how they view it. We know anecdotally from a lot of people who are grown up as celebrities that they didn't enjoy it, and they would have wanted a normal upbringing. We know that there are a lot of hate towards these people. We know that, it's in many ways, there are perks, but we can also see in this video that there are people who were bullied because they were in those videos, and their whole lives were put on display again. And you can do that to different degrees, but there's always an incentive for most people to really to put a lot of those. I guess some better families don't put all the the dirty laundry, shall we say, they may exclude some things, at least their own outbursts maybe, as parents. Still, they really use their children and their things that happen to them, and so having those online and other children in their school watching them, saying things about them. Oh, you look like a total jackass when you did that. Of course, that happens for everyone either way, but it's just all things being equal again, you're adding much more risk into your children's lives than if you're not doing it. I guess that's the thing. You want to weigh, the positive against the negative, and to me, it's because the negative risks also are a bit unknown. We don't really know, but we can theorize, we can postulate, we can make sort of informed conclusions, decisions, estimates around it. I think it's, to me, it really seems like a bad idea, basically. It seems like a bad idea, anecdotally. And even if you're a good family, even if you have the best intentions, even if you're better than most parents, you're still adding something that is worse than if you wouldn't have added it. I think that's my that's what I think about it, and I think it's something that it's going to be interesting to see how it is in 20 years, if it's molded into something more sound, or if it's the sound thing will be that people have the realization, if there's more data to support it too, I guess, that it is harmful to children, and that just as people are, experts recommending not letting children use phones all day long every day, which many parents have a hard time not following through on too. That is different though, because you don't really, how do you say, doing the vlogging is it's such an infringement on someone's personal life, and it's so easy not to do it. It takes a lot of strength to do it. To the not having children looking at phones all day takes effort to stop them, basically. If you don't do anything, they will do it. So it's easy for parents to let them do it. I'm not saying it's good, understanding that it's easy for them, but it's easier to not vlog than it is to put up videos all the time. And there we see it again. There's such a big incentive to do it, monetarily wise. They get big if they are good at it. If they have interesting vlogs and people like to watch them, they get, they have sponsored videos, and you make millions. You can make millions from it, which is a good thing, of course. I mean, that's if a family can make a living, that is a good thing. The way they're doing it, though, I think it's the risks aren't worth it. Yeah, I think that's what people in general think too. That doesn't mean that it's true. Would be really interesting to hear if there are some experts who I guess my point again is, you don't need to do it. You don't, unless you're totally broke and that's the only way to make money. I mean, I would understand it. But I don't understand it when there are families that don't need the money, that have or can have normal jobs. I guess the reasoning would be that sometimes maybe you would even have more time with your family. You can go on trips and you can just film those trips and have a lot of time with your family. And I mean, I get that. I think it's a valid argument. And if all goes well, and if the children like it, and if you get more time with your children, you can do all kinds of nice things and have a lot of money, and the children grow up and are grateful and like it and say that they are fine with it, then you've succeeded, of course. Then it's a good thing. It's just that the unknowns here are too unknown and too risky, I think, that it's just not worth it, because you can't know, and you have to be able to look your children in the eye when they're adults and say, yeah, yeah, we knew that there were risks with this. We knew that you may grow up to a really like a fundamentalist. I don't know. Yeah, some other, someone who like presses their children to do schoolwork, let's say, or something else, having a lot of expectation for them to do a certain sport, for example. Yeah, how would you? That's just wrong. It's not a good thing to do, I think. Uh, and yeah, so I don't see how you could do that. And I'm thinking like Kant's Immanuel Kant, famous philosopher, his moral imperative that the things we do needs to be subject to be an axiom or a universal law. So everything we do, I'm not saying that everything I do is like that. I'm just saying that we should think we should think like that, especially when it comes to our children, that uh, the way we raise them should be able to be an axiom, or in Kant's way, the what did he call it? I don't remember. Yeah, moral imperative, the moral imperative. And I think it doesn't cut it, being a vlogger on YouTube with your children. It just doesn't cut it. It isn't something that can. And I guess many people just rationalize it with saying, yeah, well, but we aren't those parents that this will happen to. And yeah, it's something you have to weigh positives and negatives and risks, and yeah. And there are, of course, a lot of other things that are much worse, and other families you look around to see that are much worse. I just think that yeah, you would have to be really certain that this is better than a so quote normal upbringing with normal jobs and not being famous. And yeah, I don't see how you would come to that conclusion. That's my take. So not very spiritual. I guess the thing with spirituality is mostly this idea around acting. You're adding a layer of acting from just acting yourself to having to act and interact with a non-human camera all the time, which is really psychologically weird for people to do. And there's someone else who is more important to you, who you learn to relate to, and you bring that work inside of your home, like you're making a movie of your own life, and you haven't given your approval to it because you can't as a child. I think, yeah, that's just not a good. We don't know enough to subject children to that. It's yeah, it's just not a good thing. It's enough just trying to act yourself. And yeah. Okay. So